November 12, 1952. The air in the modest Chicago University laboratory hung thick with the scent of progress, a sharp, metallic tang of ozone from the humming synthesizers, the faint, sweet smell of volatile organic compounds, and the bitter aroma of yesterday's coffee. Outside, the city braced for winter, but inside, Dr. Evelyn Reed was oblivious. Hunched over a pristine white lab bench, a single gooseneck lamp illuminating her work, she made the final entry in a worn, leather-bound notebook. Her script was precise, elegant, a testament to a mind that left nothing to chance. Before her, pinned to a corkboard, was a swatch of fabric that felt impossible. It was a deep charcoal gray with a subtle, almost imperceptible sheen. To the touch, it was pliable yet firm, cool and smooth. This was the culmination of 4 years of relentless experimentation, of countless failures, and of one singular brilliant insight. She had named it FlexiWeave. The science behind it was groundbreaking. At the time, synthetic fabrics like nylon and rayon were transforming the world, but each had its limitations. Nylon was strong but stiff. Rayon was soft but fragile when wet. Evelyn's goal was to create a material that married the best qualities of existing polymers while eliminating their flaws. Her breakthrough came not from inventing a new monomer from scratch, but from a novel copolymerization process. She had devised a way to weave long-chain polyamide molecules, the backbone of nylon strength, with a proprietary ester-based plasticizer at a molecular level. The process required a unique, low-temperature, high-pressure environment and a palladium catalyst she had painstakingly refined over hundreds of trials. The result was a cross-linked molecular structure that was both incredibly strong and remarkably flexible. More than that, the surface tension created by the ester chains was so low that liquids, coffee, ink, grease, beaded up and rolled right off. It was, for all practical purposes, stain-proof. It was a material that could upholster a family's first sofa and withstand a decade of spilled milk and crayon marks. It could form the seat of a city bus, enduring the friction of 1,000,000 commutes without fraying. It was, in short, a revolution in a swatch of cloth. Her supervisor, Dr. Arthur Sterling, would often drift into her lab, a cloud of expensive cologne preceding him. He'd peer at her beakers and spectrographs with the detached curiosity of a landlord inspecting the plumbing. "Good progress, Evelyn," he'd murmur, his eyes scanning her notes upside down. "Our little project is coming along nicely." Project. The word always landed like a stone in her gut. He hadn't spent a single night staring at gas chromatography results, hadn't personally calibrated the differential scanning calorimeter, hadn't felt the sting of failure when an entire batch of polymer refused to set. His contribution was his signature on the grant applications and his presence at departmental meetings. Yet the institutional structure was clear. He was the principal investigator. She was the talent, the engine, but he held the keys. He had assured her with a paternalistic pat on the shoulder that when the time came for the patent application, her name would be prominently featured for her diligent assistance. That time was now. With her final data logged, the formula perfected, and the manufacturing process documented, she began drafting the technical specifications for the U.S. Patent Office. She worked for 3 days straight, her handwriting a blur of chemical equations and procedural diagrams. On Friday, she left the completed draft in a sealed manila envelope on Sterling's desk for his final review and signature, as was protocol. A note was attached. "Arthur, I believe it's ready. This could change everything. Evelyn." A profound sense of accomplishment washed over her, a quiet pride that was the scientist's ultimate reward. The following weeks passed in a strange silence. Sterling was uncharacteristically absent from the lab, his office door always closed. When she inquired with his secretary, she was told he was in Washington, D.C., meeting with industrial partners. Evelyn tried to quell the growing unease, telling herself that this was the business side of science, the part she didn't understand. The discovery, when it came, was not a dramatic confrontation, but a quiet, soul-crushing happenstance. While searching for a shared academic journal in the university's patent and grants office, she saw a file on a clerk's desk. It was thick, official, and stamped with a recent date. At the top, in bold letters, was a name she recognized: Sterling Industries, LLC. And below it, the title, Patent Application for a Stain-Resistant, High-Durability Polyester Amide Textile Composite. Her blood ran cold. Her hands shaking, she opened the file. It was her work. Her equations, her diagrams, her precise temperature and pressure values, all meticulously transcribed. The only significant changes were superficial. The name had been changed from FlexiWeave to the more corporate-sounding stamina fiber, and a few molecular diagrams were redrawn with a draftsman's sterile precision. But the core, the genius, the soul of the invention was hers. And at the bottom of the application, under the section for inventor, there was only one name: Arthur Sterling. Her name was nowhere, not as a co-inventor, not in the acknowledgments, not even in a footnote. The intellectual property that would soon underpin an everyday empire had been stolen from her, leaving only the ghost of her meticulous notes in a laboratory no one would ever know to look in. How could a life's work be erased with a single signature? How could such a blatant act of theft go unchallenged in the halls of a university dedicated to the pursuit of truth? Following that brazen patent theft, Evelyn Reed refused to let her life's work be consumed by the silence of a file cabinet. The university, when she presented her case, closed ranks around Sterling. He was a tenured professor, a rainmaker who brought in grants and prestige. She was a salaried researcher, replaceable. They offered her a quiet settlement and a non-disclosure agreement. She tore it up. In 1954, armed with her lab notebooks and a young, idealistic lawyer who took her case pro bono, she filed a lawsuit against Arthur Sterling and his newly formed company for intellectual property theft. The battle that ensued was not merely a legal dispute. It was a clash between documented fact and systemic prejudice, played out in the imposing wood-paneled solemnity of the Cook County Courthouse. The courtroom was a microcosm of the world she was fighting against. The judge, the bailiffs, the jury of 12, and Sterling's high-priced legal team were all men. They looked at her as if she were a curious specimen, a woman who had wandered into a space where she did not belong. When she took the stand, Evelyn was the picture of scientific composure. She spoke clearly and without emotion, her testimony a masterclass in polymer chemistry. She walked the court through her 4-year journey, detailing the hypothesis, the methodology, the hundreds of failed iterations. She explained the delicate dance of catalysis, the precise moment a secondary plasticizer needed to be introduced to prevent the polymer chains from becoming brittle. Her evidence was overwhelming. Her lab notebooks, entered as Exhibit A, were a fortress of empirical data. Page after page of dated, signed entries chronicled her process, complete with sketches of molecular bonds and spectrographic printouts. Her lawyer had the jury look at a page from 1951 where she first theorized the palladium catalyst, and then at Sterling's patent application, which described the exact same catalyst as the inventor's key innovation. The connection was undeniable, a direct line from her mind to his patent. But Sterling's defense team had a strategy that did not rely on scientific evidence. It relied on weaponizing the very air everyone in that room breathed, the pervasive, unquestioned misogyny of the era. Their lead attorney, a charismatic man with a booming voice, did not try to refute her data. He simply reframed it. He painted Evelyn not as an inventor, but as a diligent, if overly ambitious, assistant.
He argued that Dr. Stirling, the brilliant visionary, had provided the theoretical framework, the grand ideas, and that Evelyn had merely carried out the rote laboratory tasks under his close and constant supervision. Her detailed notes, he suggested, were not proof of invention, but merely proof of her being a good employee, meticulously following the instructions of a male genius. The climax of this strategy was a moment of pure, unadulterated condescension. During his closing argument, Stirling's lawyer turned to the all-male jury, his expression a mixture of pity and paternalism. He gestured towards Evelyn, who sat watching, her face a mask of controlled fury. "The plaintiff," he began, his voice dripping with false sincerity, "is undoubtedly a capable technician. But the leap required to conceive of something as complex as stamina fiber, to understand the intricate dance of quantum mechanics, to possess the vision to transform a laboratory curiosity, that is a leap of a different order of magnitude." He paused, letting the silence hang in the air. Then he delivered the fatal blow, a statement so shocking in its audacity that it was recorded verbatim in the court transcripts. "A woman simply lacks the intellectual capacity for such complex, abstract innovation." It wasn't an argument. It was presented as a fundamental truth, a law of nature as immutable as gravity. He was telling the jury to trust their gut, to trust the social order they knew. Could this woman, this quiet, unassuming chemist, truly be the architect of an industrial revolution? Or was it more plausible that the esteemed, confident Dr. Stirling was the true inventor? The argument was an appeal to a deeply ingrained bias, a systemic dismissal of female genius quantified not in data, but in the nodding heads of the men in the jury box. The verdict was a formality. The jury deliberated for less than an hour. Evelyn Reed lost the case. The court ruled that she had failed to prove her work was not work for hire under the direct supervision of Dr. Stirling. Her notebooks were dismissed as the dutiful records of an employee, not the chronicles of an inventor. As the judge read the verdict, the courtroom murmurs were not of shock, but of quiet affirmation. The world had been set right again. Evelyn felt not a fiery anger, but a profound, hollowing cold. She had presented irrefutable truth, and the system had responded by telling her that her truth was inadmissible, that her very identity as a woman made her claims unbelievable. It was a perfect, closed loop of injustice. The law had not failed because of a technicality. It had performed exactly as the system designed it to, protecting the powerful and preserving the status quo. How did such an overt display of misogyny shape the outcome of justice? It ended the outcome. The trial wasn't about chemistry. It was a referendum on a woman's place in the world, and the verdict was a resounding command to stay in it.
Building on the painful precedent set by that courtroom injustice, Arthur Stirling's empire was born. Freed from any legal challenge, Stirling Industries went into mass production. Stamina fiber, the fabric born in Evelyn Reed's lab, became an invisible, indispensable thread in the tapestry of post-war American life. It was the tough, easy-to-clean upholstery in the new station wagons rolling off Detroit's assembly lines. It was the cheerful, spill-proof fabric on the dinette chairs in booming suburban kitchens. It was woven into the durable, grease-resistant uniforms of factory workers, mechanics, and gas station attendants. By the 1960s, its applications had expanded into commercial aviation, military gear, and even early experimental spacesuits. Its unique combination of strength and resilience making it the default material for any application that demanded endurance. Arthur Stirling became a titan of industry, celebrated on the covers of business magazines as a quintessential American innovator, a man whose genius had made modern life more comfortable and convenient. All the while, Evelyn Reed's name faded into obscurity. She left academic research, unable to endure the whispers and sidelong glances, and took a position as a high school chemistry teacher, her brilliant mind confined to demonstrating rudimentary experiments for teenagers. Her legacy was everywhere, yet she was nowhere.
For decades, the official story remained unchallenged. Sterling's hagiography was taught in business schools, his patent cited as a case study in commercial innovation. But history, given enough time, has a way of circling back on its own injustices. The reckoning for Evelyn Reed began not in a courtroom, but in the dusty, neglected corner of a university archive in the early 2000s. A young historian of science named Dr. Lena Horowitz, researching the suppression of female scientists in the 20th century, stumbled upon a box labeled Reed E. Lab Records 1948 to 1952. Inside, she found not just the lab notebooks dismissed by the court, but a treasure trove of personal correspondence. Letters to colleagues questioning the ethics of university patent policies, drafts of papers that were never published, and a personal diary detailing her passion, her frustrations, and the profound betrayal she felt. Horowitz knew she had found something monumental. She collaborated with a material scientist, Dr. Ben Carter, who specialized in the forensic analysis of historical artifacts. Together, they embarked on a quiet, methodical investigation to prove what Evelyn couldn't in 1954. They obtained vintage samples of Sterling's original stamina fiber from collectors and museums. In a sterile, modern lab, surrounded by gleaming chrome and digital displays, they subjected these decades-old fibers to cutting-edge analysis. Advanced forensic textile analysis using techniques like gas chromatography mass spectroscopy and Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy allowed them to deconstruct the fabric at a molecular level. They vaporized tiny samples, reading the unique chemical signature of the polymer chains. The data streams that appeared on their monitors were unequivocal. They found the distinct markers of the palladium catalyst Evelyn had described in her notes. They identified the precise ratio of polyamide to ester that she had recorded on October 24, 1952, the day she perfected the formula. The digital fingerprints of the vintage fabric were a perfect one-to-one match with the handwritten formulas in her notebook. The evidence was irrefutable. Her genius, her rigorous scientific process had been systematically erased, and now science itself was bringing it back into the light. The publication of their findings in the Science sent a shockwave through the academic community. Sterling Industries, now a massive, faceless multinational corporation, issued a terse statement acknowledging the contributions of early researchers. The university, after a lengthy internal review, posthumously awarded Dr. Evelyn Reed its highest honor, the Presidential Medal of Science, and installed a small bronze plaque outside her old, long-renovated laboratory. These were important gestures, but they felt small, late. The wealth, the recognition, the empire, all had been built on her stolen work. Evelyn Reed had died in 1993, a beloved but largely unknown high school teacher. She never saw her name restored. Her story forces us to confront an uncomfortable reality. The question isn't just who signed the patent, but how many other pivotal contributions, woven into the very fabric of our daily lives, remain uncredited to the marginalized minds who truly forged them. Whose name vanished from the citation? Whose breakthrough was dismissed as rote assistance? Evelyn Reed's story is not just a historical footnote. It is a stark reminder that genius is everywhere, but opportunity and recognition have never been granted equally. Remembering her is not just about correcting a single injustice. It's about recalibrating our understanding of who builds the world.